Win a Pageant, episode 57. I created this step-by-step process after training thousands of women across the U.S. to win. Now you can have access to these winning strategies when you join me every Wednesday. Let's win a pageant. Hey girl, welcome back to another episode of Win a Pageant. I'm your coach, Alicia Darby. Now in our last episode, 56, I shared with you the 3 simplest steps to take action. And I shared stories of success and some failure resulting from taking action or not. Today, we are going to talk about one of the reasons why people, maybe even you, don't take action. Now, last week at the end of the episode, I presented a challenge to take action on something small that would lead you toward your big goal, but you had to take action within the next 24 hours. Now, what I know is that there were only about 10% of you who actually accepted this challenge and really took action. So how do I know this? Well, because 90% of the population is just average, both in life and in pageants. That is why it is such a huge honor to place in the top 5 in a pageant. Because with 50 contestants, the top 5 is your top 10%. It's a huge honor. Now, I've coached thousands of women all across the U.S. in every major pageant system, and the ones that end up in that top 10% are the doers, not just the dreamers. So I want to explain this to you. Every single woman competing in a pageant has a dream, and you've heard this a million times before. I hope you've felt this too. Every dreamer believes that she truly can make it to the top. She feels alive when she envisions herself winning that title. She's passionate and excited about it. That's why you compete in the first place. You wouldn't enter a pageant if you didn't really believe you had this dream that it would just be amazing if you would actually win this incredible title. But only 10% of the women competing, who also have that dream, by the way, are actually doers. Only 10% of these women take consistent and committed action toward this goal. The women who place in the top 5 are the elite group of action takers. They're going to be successful no matter what they set out to accomplish. Why? Because they aren't afraid of what they don't know. In this episode, I'm going to share with you how to overcome the fear of the unknown and create a strategy for your pageant success that will get you into that top 10% of elite pageant contestants. Let's begin by first just unpacking what I mean by the fear of the unknown. So this could be the fear of the outcome. Sometimes people refer to this as fear of success or fear of failure. And it also could be the fear of the actual process. So the fear of the outcome is that if they're afraid of succeeding, they would have to change everything in order to leave their comfort zone and become this new person that's wildly successful. It also could be seen as the fear of failure, the outcome being failure, which is they have to actually face the fact that they're going to need a new idea or a new way of going about the strategy to get to where they're going. So those 2 things can truly, absolutely just freeze you by not knowing what you will experience in success or failure. Now, the other is the fear of the process, and this is not having an actual strategy to follow, the step-by-step to know the path that you actually need to get into that winner's circle. This is equally paralyzing because you just don't know where to go next. There's no lighted path in front of you to know what is the next step you're supposed to take down the path. So then you just kind of stand there looking around, not knowing what to do next. And that is the fear of the unknown of the actual process. Now, these fears generally stem from 3 very specific areas. This is what I want to unpack with you today because this is going to be how you can analyze where you are in your fear of the unknown, which, by the way, we all have fears of the unknown. The difference between the 90% and the 10% is that the 10% know what it is, they can identify it, and then they know how to overcome it. So that's what we're going to unpack today. The 3 fears stem from these 3 areas. The first is the lack of experience in risk-taking. The second is the lack of education. And the third is the lack of multidimensional identity. Okay, now these sound maybe a little bit like overwhelming. So I want to break it down, each one of them. We're going to talk about what it looks like, what type of woman is likely to be susceptible to this or to be excellent in overcoming these. I'm going to share with you a little bit about how it shows up when I am coaching a client, like how these things, what to be really looking for, in yourself. And then I'm also going to describe to you how you can be in the top 10%. What do you need to do when this is the thing that you are facing? So let's dive in. The first is the lack of experience in risk taking. Now, women who haven't taken risks in the past, or at least in the recent past, they can't adequately understand the comparison of a benefit over a risk. They have a hard time seeing how overcoming a risk can bring them benefits beyond what's, of course, obvious. So it takes somebody with experience in risk taking to point out these benefits and to really train somebody to recognize that they are able to pivot as more information is received. The type of woman that is excellent at overcoming this type of fear from the area of risk taking is typically somebody who has studied abroad or frequently travels. These are really great indicators of someone who could be great at diminishing the fear of the unknown because they've had so many risky experiences when they've failed or even had success. Like, think about it with different languages, cultural norms, even just moving to a brand new city or getting lost, things like this can really help you to identify that the benefit of trying something new is phenomenal compared to the risk of what might happen if it doesn't work out or if you fail or whatever. Risks of the unknown become less and less scary because they've been there, they've done that, they've figured it out before, so they understand that if they can overcome this challenge, the benefit will be absolutely huge. As a coach, when I'm working with somebody, I'm listening for this lack of experience in risk taking or this fear to show up because it usually sounds like initial excitement. So they're usually super excited and wow, that sounds great. And then it slowly is kind of overshadowed by a series of what if questions. So what if it doesn't work? What if that's not what they want? What if I run out of time? What if it works sooner than we planned? What if I don't have enough? What if? Okay. When my clients ask these questions, I consider them rhetorical because if it's a place of fear, they're saying, well, what if this, what if this, what if this? And I don't know if they're expecting me to say like, oh yeah, well, gee, I never thought about that. So, yeah, if you run out of time, you're just totally screwed. So let's just not even do it. I would never say that to someone, okay? Instead, my clients actually, when they are asking these questions, they expect a strategy as an answer. So if a client says to me, well, what if it doesn't work? My answer is not going to be, yikes, let's fear the fact that it might not work, and so let's not even do it. No, my answer would be, okay, so if this doesn't work, what we're going to do is we are going to go back and analyze why it didn't work, and we're going to create a new plan of action. If you find yourself on this what if train, then you need to answer the questions. What if, ... Answer that, okay? Because you will discover that your fears are likely irrational. And if they are irrational, then you will be so much more certain about your need to just take action. Before I consider working with a new VIP client, I ask them to describe their previous failures and we discuss their interpretation of these experiences because what I know is that the top 10% are the ones that are able to focus on the benefits that outweigh the risks. They don't focus on a bunch of irrational fears. So if somebody is able to display to me that they've done this in the past, I'm able to anchor back to that when this comes up in our pageant coaching together. The next cause of the fear of the unknown is simply a lack of education. So women who have not had an educational experience have a limited understanding of their abilities to grow and to develop new skills. Now, this is not about ability. I just want to be very clear that we are all capable of learning new skills. But if you have not stretched those muscles in a while, even say a couple of months or a couple of years, then it's really hard to believe that it's possible to learn something new. Women that easily overcome this are the ones that are currently pursuing education in any area of life. So maybe they are a college student currently or a recent college grad. It's the type of woman who signs up for snowboarding lessons instead of sitting out when her friends go on a snowboarding trip. That was me years ago. I was like, I don't know how to snowboard. And then I realized all my friends keep going on these snowboarding trips and it's stopping me because I just don't know how. I need to actually just sign up for lessons, It's the type of woman who follows cookbooks to learn new recipes. She is a learner. Someone who is always like YouTubing how-to videos for everything from cleaning a coffee pot to programming a cell phone, okay? These women know that if they can't do it now, all they have to do is find somebody to teach them how. They believe in their ability to grow and develop new skills. Now, when I see this type of cause of the fear of the unknown coming up in my coaching calls, it usually sounds like I can't, or I don't, or I couldn't, things like that. It's this type of belief that is not growth oriented. Okay, so it sounds like, well, I can't lose weight, or I can't afford it. I can't speak like that. I could never do that. I don't know how. Someone that is coachable, when instead of saying I can't or I don't, they are the type of person who would ask questions to get the answer of the how. They're looking, instead of what they can't do, they're looking for how do I do this? So they would ask, how can I lose weight? How can I afford this? How do others speak like that? Or how could I ever do that? Can you show me how? Before I ever consider working with a new VIP client, I ask them, when was the last time that you invested in your education? Because the top 10% are the ones that are educationally focused. They're the type of women that are continually looking up information. This is why a lot of my VIP clients first go through my free training, because I know that if they first go through a lot of my free trainings and they gain value from that, they're implementing what they're learning, they're goal-oriented and they're education-oriented, then I know that they can learn just about anything. So if I put them into my VIP Jumpstart program, they're going to be able to follow that strategy because they're looking for the answers. They're not looking for excuses of why they can't. The third cause of this fear of the unknown is a lack of what I call a multidimensional identity. If we feel that our identity is all wrapped up in just one area rather than a multitude of areas, we are far less likely to take a risk that could result in failure or success because we're really just worried about protecting that identity. This is why parents are criticized a lot when they are only telling their kid one thing that they're great at. So when they keep telling them, oh, you're the best at this, but then they don't point out other areas. So for example, if a kid is really great at basketball and the parents never point out that they're also great at math, or that they're also an excellent dancer, or that they are just really encouraging of other people, or they're a great friend to all their friends, So if they're just focusing on one area, the child is likely to create their full identity around only one area. So the women that are least likely to suffer from this are those that have a solid support system of people from areas outside of pageantry. So like their husband, their family, their best friends who know and love them for other strengths and skills that they own as an individual. So their identity is multidimensional. They are a sister, they're a wife, they're a professional, they're a mentor, they're a volunteer, they're a mother, and they're a beauty queen. So it's not all wrapped up in just being a beauty queen, This usually shows up when a woman tells me that she wants to win a pageant because she wants to prove it to everyone else that she can do it. If somebody believes that their only job is to prove themselves to everybody else in this one area of life, this is not a good position to be in, okay? Generally, I'm able to ask enough questions around that to determine whether or not her identity is built around this, or usually there's far more to it. So, however, if she believes that this will be the solution to all of her problems, like if she says something like, if I just win Miss America, then everyone will love me, that's scary because it's not true. It is not true. You need to get your credibility and your self-worth from other areas of life before a pageant win can even be in the cards. So when I'm considering working with a potential VIP client, when I'm walking them through the interview process, I want to make sure that she is not what I call a crown chaser. My definition of a crown chaser is the type of woman that has a one-track mind. So she only sees this as the answer. She's got to do this to prove herself. She's looking for this win to change everything. My winners, instead, have a vision far greater than just the title. They actually want to impact the world, and they recognize that they are able to use all of their strengths, all of their skills in multiple areas of life to assist their pageant title, but also their relationships, their career, and just life in general. Now that you understand where this fear really is coming from, like what's causing it, the next step that you have to do is see, okay, so now what? What do I do to actually overcome this? Because the truth is that all people have these fears, even the most successful people. The difference is how the 90% versus the 10% respond. The average person, the 90%, want to just keep doing what they're doing so they don't have to do something that they don't know. They're afraid of what they don't know. And so they don't want to have to do it. They don't want to learn it. They don't want to have to try to do something different. They just want to stay comfortable. And then there's the 10% of people. This is the top 5 standing at the end of the pageant. These are the women that choose to be coachable over being comfortable. So the difference is that the Miss USA contestant who's just wanting to be comfortable says, well, gosh, what if I win and then I have to move to New York City? I've never lived in a big city before. Versus the 10%, the woman who ends up winning, who says, I guess I better learn to live in a big city so that I'm ready for when I win and need to move there. The difference shows up in the 18-year-old Miss America contestant who's in the 90%, the average girl who says, what if I win this year and I don't have all those years to learn new things, or to make connections, okay? Versus the girl who ends up winning who says, wow, I really better buckle down because I'm seeing that all these other girls have had years to compete and they've got all these connections and they know what they're doing. I better hurry up and get a strategy so that I can make up for my lack of experience. It also shows up in a 35-year-old woman who says, I can't be in a pageant now because all those other girls have been competing for years. I could just never do that. Versus the top 10% who actually say, you know what? I need to learn how to compete in a pageant against all these girls who have been doing it for years. Do you see the distinction? Many women are terrified of the top 5 on stage question. That's really the difference. Think about the type of woman who's terrified of the on stage question is not going to win the pageant. I tell all of my clients, if you want that crown on your head at the end of the night, then you will answer an on-stage question. So stop avoiding it and start practicing, okay? Do not lower your expectations to your level of education and experience. Instead, I want you to raise your level of education and experience to your level of expectations. I'm going to say this again because this is just so important. Do not lower your expectations to your current level of education and experience. Instead, raise your education and experience to the level of your high expectations. The top 10% of contestants do not lower their expectations to meet their experience. Instead, they take a risk. They get educated. They use their experience to advance themselves and not just their pageants, but also their career, their relationships, their life. They get a strategy to get into the top 5. Today, I want you to take charge of your pageant experience. I want you to overcome the fear of the unknown. And remember, we all have it. We all have the fear of the unknown. What you need to decide is if you are going to remain fearing the unknown and allow it to, dictate your comfort level and remain where you're at, or if you're going to jump into that top 10%. Remember, it's not about ability. It's about your willingness to jump into the top 10% and actually take action to get a strategy to overcome this. Okay, so here's what I want to share with you today. I've got a cool opportunity and I'm excited about this. So I have opened up some time in my calendar for next week. I happen to have a lighter schedule next week, so it's allowing me to do this for you. And it comes at just absolutely perfect timing because I know that this is the thick of pageant season and many of us are really, stifled by the fear of the unknown. And I want you to get over that. So I'm going to give you a talk on the phone for 30 minutes to figure out what are your goals, actually, like really, what are they? Where are you stuck actually? Like, where are you actually stuck? Not what are you just telling yourself? But then I also want to give you a little pot of gold that I call a strategy. I want to give you a very clear path. Remember, I've been doing this with thousands of girls. I've worked with people all over the world, actually. And I want to help you to figure out, what is it that you're missing? Like, what are the step-by-step things you actually have to do to get you out of your pageant rut? So if you feel like you are actually ready to step into that top 10%, you're willing to do it. And now remember, a strategy is different for every person, so you can't stay stuck. You have to be the type of person that's willing to be open to being challenged. I don't sugarcoat things. I don't make it all fancy and, make it sound gorgeous. Instead, I just give you the nitty gritty. I just tell you, listen, here's what you're doing wrong. Here's what you need. I don't make it froofy. I really want to give you the actual tools and strategies to get you into the top 5. Okay, so if you're ready for this, I want you to schedule a free strategy call. Did I mention that this is free? I don't think I already said that. Yeah, I'm doing this for free because I know that there are women out there, and this could be you, that have been battling this for years. You have been struggling with this in probably more area than one because, as I mentioned, this is not just something that's limited to just pageant. This overlaps in all areas of our life. If this is you, I want you to take advantage of this, okay? Here's how you do it. You're going to go to winapageant.com/strategy call. It's going to bring you to a calendar. So you're going to choose your time zone and then find on the calendar a time that suits your schedule. Then it's going to ask you a series of questions, just quick little ones like about your pageant, the date, if you're willing to be coachable, questions like that. Click submit. It's totally free. That is going to show up on my calendar, and it's also going to send you an email reminder. Now, I want you to show up on time for your call with a pen and paper and be ready to roll because you are going to leave with an actual strategy that is going to get you well on your way to winning your pageant. So do not be the lazy 90%, the average, okay? I know that you've got a dream. I know that you have a vision of yourself in the top 5. You wouldn't be listening to this message if you didn't have that dream. If you want to win, then you've got to take action because that, ladies, is how you win a pageant. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I will see you on your strategy call. Sign up at winapageant.com/strategy call. Hey there, I'm Alicia Darby, and I just want to say thank you so much for watching that last video. If you totally loved it and got something from it, would you just click subscribe right here to subscribe to our YouTube channel? Hey, I am here for you, and I've got so many more trainings and videos for you. In fact, this one would be a really great one to watch next. Or if that topic doesn't interest you, then try this one. It's my most recent video training. So I think both of these would be really great for you. Thank you again so much for subscribing. I am honored to be your coach. I'll see you again soon.